Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fridays at 5. I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart, here with a lot of color vowelists, new and returning. We're always glad to come together on Fridays for our Teaching with Text sessions. This was inspired by, good old COVID. When it rolled out by March or so, we realized that a lot of people were starting to jump online and having to teach with this whole new set of tools. And so we've been meeting on a weekly basis ever since. Everything from how to use Zoom to how to use the kinds of tools that we use for teaching with online. Today, I'm happy to have and proud to introduce Megan Calvert, who's here from Montgomery College in Maryland. Hi, Megan. Megan will be introducing her topic shortly, but we all know it has to do with speaking if you've come for that topic. A lot of us come here just every week to keep getting used to talking about technology. And I will take a moment just to sort of set the tone that there are lots of videos out there, you know, how to use Screencast-O or how to use Google Classroom. Those are all waiting for you, and they're professionally done, and they're very informative. What they don't provide is what we're doing here, which is a dialogue that is honest and humble and not embarrassing, and you can ask the simplest question and the more complex question because we're here as teachers to support one another. And that's what we do at Color Vowel. So please just know that if you're new to the room, we're here to support, and it's not just a listen only kind of a setting, okay? I'm going to go ahead and move toward Megan's part of the day, and then toward the end of our session, right before the top of the hour, we'll come back to highlight some of our upcoming events and the kinds of workshops we'll be doing in August and September through the fall. We have some really exciting programming coming up, all of which supports English language teaching, especially with a focus on spoken English and pronunciation. So without any further delay, I'd like to introduce Megan, and Megan, will turn it over to you.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming. This is a great group. Nice turnout for 5 o'clock on Friday. I'll just say a little bit about what I do. I work for Montgomery College, and a lot of the work that I do is very like ESP focused, or in other words, like focused on the workplace. So you'll hear that come out as I talk about some of the assignments that I've done, but I work with adults in workforce development, and I've done all kinds of projects from nursing assistants to computer repair and stuff in between. So let me get my PowerPoint pulled up.
Hey, would you like to see the poll, Megan? Should I send that out?
Yeah, let's actually wait just 1 second on the poll, because I'm going to show, let's get started here actually. And oops, I want to present my slideshow. Okay. And I am happy if you guys can keep an eye on the chat and let me know if there's something in there. But you're welcome to chat and share your information at any time, because I am not an expert on any of these tools. I'm going to share my experience and my ideas and some tools that I'm excited about. But you guys might have better suggestions and ideas and things. You might know more details than me at some point, or you might just come up with something really creative on the spot. So so I want to hear just a little bit from you guys. Actually, maybe we can do this. I'm winging it a little bit here, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Maybe we can start with one question and then the other. What kinds of online speaking assignments have you done in the past? And like I said, I work mostly in workforce development. So a couple of the speaking assignments that I thought of, I've had my students do how-to videos. And I have my students do customer service, a lot of customer service type speaking assignments where they're acting as the job that they're trying to target, and I'm assessing them in some way. So those are a couple of the speaking assignments that I have done. And if you guys can take just a second in the chat to maybe share a type of speaking assignment that you have done also, just to get us thinking and give me a little sense of what you're doing. Okay, role playing. Thank you, Karen. Self-introductions, yeah. Telling a story from a narrative unit, wonderful. Speaking cards, great. Reading commercials in groups and recording and placing in a wiki. Oh, how cool. I used to use wiki spaces a lot with my students, and then it died, it disappeared, it's gone. So my whole wiki world disappeared. But that's a great idea. PB Works, yeah. I have to get into that. I'm actually not currently teaching, so I don't get to do a lot of the fun stuff that you guys will be doing this semester if you're teaching. Wonderful, collaborative conversation. Thank you. And so let me ask the second question. What tools have you used for those assignments? So maybe you've just done it face-to-face, and the tool is the human voice face-to-face. Or maybe you've done it over the phone, or maybe you've had students record. I'm sure Skip had to use some kind of recording tool, so I'd love to hear, for example, what Skip used for that recording tool. Oh, Rebecca's so full of good ideas. WhatsApp, YouTube, cell phone cameras, great. Have students call and leave a message, awesome. Voice board and then voice thread on Blackboard. Jennifer, you should share it more about that maybe at the end if we have time. That'd be so cool to hear more about. Google Voice is one thing I'm going to talk about today. Wonderful. Any other tools? Vocaroo and Flipgrid. I have dabbled in the world of Flipgrid. I'm not going to talk about it today, and I'm like, I love Flipgrid in theory, but I actually haven't used it, so I don't feel too confident talking about it. But I found another tool that I actually feel much more confident using, and I think I would be pretty into using it. So great, and Robin Barr is already getting some ideas, it sounds like. So I will say just about technology, and I have a slide about this in a second, but I mean, really, like, we're all learning. We have this amazing opportunity in a way with the remote instruction that many of us have been thrown into to be creative, to step up to that challenge and mix up what we've been doing. So, you know, experiment, explore, like, you know, students, I think, are going to be a little extra patient with you right now too. So they'll be like, you know, okay, my teacher is learning just like I am, and we can model that for students too. So as we talk about all these tools, I'm just going to give a little sort of hint of why you might be interested in it, a little bit of the basics, and then I would encourage you all, if you're interested, go and explore it more. So great, and Jenny, thank you. Nearpod is a fun one that I've thought a little bit about too. So the ones that I am going to talk about today I have 7 of them. It looks like a lot. We'll see how far we get, but I'm going to focus mostly on the first 3. And then I would say the last 4 of these are things that I have not specifically used for speaking assignments, but if I were going to be teaching, I would be pretty excited to use these. So I'm going to just share a little bit about those, and if people want to fill in and share a little bit more too, that would be great. So now would be a perfect opportunity, Karen, to launch the poll, because I'd love to know what you're familiar with of these 7 tools, and I can get a better sense of maybe what we want to focus a little bit more on.
Yeah. So the poll is open. And we can maybe leave it open for a minute or so. And you can...
I seem to be able to click only one.
Oh, you know
what? We set it up.
We set it up at the last second. That's my bad. Sorry, everybody. How about if you click on the one that you're most familiar with? Megan, we'll just kind of change that information for you. What are you most familiar with?
Okay.
And we should take a zoom out of
You only get one. You only get one tool. Well, everybody's somewhat familiar with Zoom, obviously.
There you go.
You made it this far.
I'll go with SoundCloud. I can't answer my own poll.
Oh, SoundCloud is cool.
I can't vote either.
Oh, I think if you're a co-host, you can't vote. So I've run into this with the polls.
It's not very democratic.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a few more folks. So just look for that poll. Which one are you most familiar with? I think I got signed up for a Schoology account once, and I just got a bunch of emails and it was like unsubscribe. I didn't really get to know what it was. So I'm eager to hear about that, at least as a concept.
Yeah, it's so funny how we sort of approach these tools, and sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to bother with that one right now.
Right,
I'm just not ready for it. If we can, do you want to see the results? I can't see what's happening. So.
Yeah, let's go ahead and share the results. Here we go.
PowerPoint. Oh man, you may think you're super familiar with PowerPoint, and we're all using PowerPoints, but wow, I have to say, I have never really been a big fan of Microsoft, but they're kind of blowing me away these days. And I am excited to share a little bit about this. Hopefully we'll have time, because they're doing some really interesting things with artificial intelligence that are like,
wow,
I think would be really fun for students right now. And there's a recording feature on there that I bet many of us have never used, even if we've used PowerPoint. So, oh, good. People are familiar with Padlet. That one's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to play more with Padlet. It's so beautiful. And Google Voice and SoundCloud. Okay, great. So let's go into the next part of this. So just a little bit thinking about online speaking assignments, you know, and the remote world that many of us are in. I would say, I just wanted to share 5 reasons that came to my mind about why you do online speaking assignments right now. One, to give students more time to practice their spoken English, because they're not really interacting in the classroom the way they normally are. So you can do things like breakout rooms if you're on Zoom. And if you're still in person, you know, I'm thinking about you too, but I'm mostly thinking about the remote world right now. So I would, you know, think about, you know, how can you create assignments that might let them interact a little bit more, or let them do more speaking. You also want to think about assessment and feedback, which is so important. One of the things I've been talking about, I do some teacher training at the job that I have now, and I read this amazing report that just came out in July. I think it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really fascinating report. They did this study looking at what made students more satisfied after they went online during the pandemic, and they took these 8 factors that they had previously correlated to more effective remote teaching, and they actually found that those factors in remote teaching were correlated with more student satisfaction too. And one of the things that I keep trying to emphasize to my teachers is that one of those factors is frequent tests and quizzes. Students actually want frequent tests and quizzes in their remote classes, because I think they're feeling kind of lonely and they're feeling distant and separated, and having that feedback, that regular frequent feedback, gets them more engaged and gives them a sense of if they're learning, which, you know, adults, especially adults, really need that sense of making progress, or they're going to be like, you know what, I got to go make dinner. So to allow students to self-assess and improve by hearing their own spoken English. So I'd say, especially with recording assignments, that opportunity to hear your own voice, which is often a moment. Karen Taylor and Robin Barr, you guys taught me this. Students will freak out a little bit sometimes when they hear their own voice. It sounds different than they're normally used to hearing, which some of that is the recording, and some of that is just the experience of it being outside of their head instead of inside of their head. But you know, it's a really nice opportunity for them to hear themselves and assess themselves, maybe do peer assessment as well. To allow students more cognitive processing time to focus on pronunciation or their other skills, grammar, trying to incorporate specific vocabulary, or add more complexity, which is actually something that I would assign to my students when I taught at a university in Turkey as an English language fellow. I would try to get my students to focus more on complexity and build that skill when I did some of my recordings. And then also to encourage more interaction among students. Some of the tools I'm going to talk about today are social. So there's kind of a social media aspect to them. And that is a really nice opportunity for students too. So, and I want to point this out, just that you don't need to get really fancy to do online speaking assignments. Like, if this is as far as you want to go, great. You can just stop here. and just say, okay, I can do an online speaking assignment, because you can just have students use any recording app on their phones. If you go to, I'm sorry, I'm an Android user. If you go to Google Play and you just look for, you know, voice recorder, there's like a gajillion apps. There's probably one built into the phones. iPhones, someone would have to tell me, are they built into iPhones, a voice recorder? Okay.
Yeah, there's a thing called voice memo that they can use.
Yeah, easy. And they can just email it to you, right? So they can do a recording in Windows. There's a voice recorder app in Windows. Apparently, I was Googling this. I'm not a Mac user either. A QuickTime app in Mac OS. Anyone familiar with that? So these are just apps that they can just use, just do a little recording and just email it to you. Maybe in the past, those files might have been too big to email, but these days, I've had my students email me 10-minute videos and just attach it, and it works. It's fine. So Robin Barr looks very surprised by that. But yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so I guess it's working all right. So go ahead and email me those assignments. So you don't have to get that fancy. You can do these speaking assignments in that way. And I debated about including this, but I thought it was worth mentioning just very briefly, because as I'm thinking about all these technologies and playing with them, I keep thinking back about this article that I encountered in a class in grad school years ago, where they talked about the process of technology adoption, where first you're dabbling a little bit, and then you're doing old things in old ways, then old things in new ways, and then new things in new ways. And I think this is so fascinating, because it's basically like, even if you're using that technology a little bit, you might be maybe kind of at stage 3, maybe you're doing old things using that new tool, but you can kind of move forward and think about how you can, sometimes that tool will elevate you in a way that can let you do something you weren't able to do before. So I think it's worth mentioning that. So I'm going to talk about Google Voice, but this is a little tricky for me because I thought about how this session is recorded, and I don't want to share my Google Voice phone number or my students' numbers, because many of my students call me. I actually use my Google Voice number for work now. I'm using it all the time. It's part of my email signature at work, because I don't have a work phone anymore. I just have my Google Voice account. Why am I using a Google Voice account? Because it's a little more private than just using my cell phone number. I do not want to give my personal cell phone number to my students, and I'm sure many of you also do not want to do that. So I'm just thinking of some nightmares that I had.
I'll just pitch in. I mean, what's great about it is you can turn it off. You can decide not to have it ring on your personal phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it also means that you can keep, you know, the hours the way you want them to. And when you don't answer, Jennifer knows this, we have a Google number for Color Vowel, and it all comes through in the form of an email to us. So, you know, our email is our answering machine. It's great.
Yes, for sure. If anyone else wants to chime in about why you use Google Voice, I mean, the privacy is one reason, but there are a lot of good reasons too.
I liked to use it back when I was teaching full time. And we didn't have, this was sort of new technology, but I really like that it will create a transcript in the voicemail. So I would have my students leave the message, and sometimes I give them, I want you to read this. And then I would share with them how Google Voice transcribed it. And then, or I would collect sort of common errors when Google transcribed it. And we talk about in class then, you know, why do you think Google Voice heard this when you all were saying this? And that was kind of an interesting exercise for them.
Oh yeah. It's really interesting now because I work with native English speakers and non-native English speakers, and even, you know, you can't put too much stock in the transcripts. The transcripts are awesome, and it is really interesting to look at them and say, oh, why would it have transcribed it that way? But I've noticed a lot, since I have so many native English speakers calling me, that their transcripts get messed up almost as much as my students do.
I emphasize that. I said, don't think that it's you, because it does that to native speakers too. It's just, but it's interesting to see why certain errors happen in the transcription.
Yeah, for sure. I did put an example up here. So I took the student's name out. And this was an assignment that I did. So one reason I use Google Voice is it's easy and it's really just like a real phone. So students are just dialing a number. You get a Google Voice number and they just dial that number just like any other number from their cell phones. I would have them call in class. And this was an assignment that I did where students were working on, what's it called? The Nato telephone alphabet. So we were practicing this for customer service purposes. And so it's a little bit excessive, but I asked them to, spell out their name, spell out a website, spell out a password, and practice with the Nato telephone alphabet. And so you can see how, is it coming out right? Are we getting the right letters? And the transcript, worked pretty well with the student, and for other students, it didn't quite work as well, but it was great. It was a really nice assignment that we could do very quickly. It took maybe about 15 minutes in class, and students would practice a little bit, and they'd call and just leave a voicemail, and we can look at them. And one thing you can do with those voicemails too, once they leave them, you get the transcription, which is super helpful. You can also download those recordings, which is another thing to note if you ever want to maybe share them with other students, or if you have students who are very low tech and they don't have a lot of access to technology and they want to find a way to do a download of a recording. There are a lot of ways that you could use Google Voice. So I just came up with a few ideas here, things that I've done. So I've actually had my students role play help desk calls with me as help desk technicians using Google Voice. So you could do customer service call practice. They could be the customers, or they could be the help desk technicians or the customer service representatives. Practice for calling the doctor. If you've got lower level students, they can actually, say, I'm sick and here are my symptoms. Practice leaving a voicemail. Oral interviews, you could just do them over the phone. Using the artificial intelligence, the AI, for feedback, just like Jennifer was saying, you can think about how the transcript might be playing into what they're doing with their language. And you can let students call each other. If you have a Google account, I should make this clear, if you have a Google account and you've never used Google Voice, you can just go set it up. You have to have a Google account. And as far as I understand, it has to be linked to a real phone number too. So I'm thinking, I was trying to play with this today, and I think I actually caused myself an issue where I can't call out of my Google Voice account anymore, because I tried to create a new Google account and see if I could, add another Google Voice number, and it I think messed me up. So if anyone has any experience with creating multiple accounts, that would be very, very interesting to know. But so far, I've had no luck with that. But students could, if they don't want to share their personal phone numbers, but they need to be able to text or call other students in the class, you can have them set up Google Voice and talk to them about, how to deal with that privacy concern too. You can also text with Google Voice, which is another fun thing to play with. And as I mentioned, you can download recordings to share as examples. So let me pause for a minute here before I go on to the next tool to see if there's anyone who wants to share any other cool, exciting tips about Google Voice. Rebecca, you said you use it. Do you have anything you want to share about how you use it in class?
No, I think you've really covered everything that I do with it. I mean, I've used it for students to send me texts or pictures of work that they're doing. Especially from March until May, students still had paper packets that they were working on. And so every day I would ask them to send me pictures of the work that they had done that day. But I didn't want to give my phone number out to everybody. So I used my Google Voice number, and the pictures came through just great. And then I could mark them up on my phone and send them back. So that worked really well. But yeah, everything you said, leaving messages, and I've never talked to students live using Google Voice in class, but I used to use Google Voice, like somebody else said. I just use it as my regular phone number for people that I don't want to have my real phone number. So, you know, like, and also if I give that to somebody and I don't want to talk to them, I can just, it doesn't have to come through. It's great.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to share any tips for Google Voice?
And it's free.
Free.
It's free.
It only costs you your personal data, which Google uses to make money. So,
And privacy.
Tiny slice of your soul.
just a little slice. You'll barely notice. Okay, so let me go on to the next tool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about SoundCloud, which I used to be so into SoundCloud. I'm a little less excited about it these days. But I think there's something really special about SoundCloud. Like, we have a lot more technologies that are just emerging all the time and shaping the way we teach and the tools that we have available to do more. But SoundCloud still is the only tool that I've found that does this very particular thing that I think is very useful for giving feedback. SoundCloud is actually, some of you might be familiar with it if you're into certain music communities. I think, yeah. Dr. Barr, what music community are you into that you're nodding your head?
Whenever one of my composers premieres a new piece that we play, then he downloads it on SoundCloud and we can listen to it.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's
he has his own. He has his own account on SoundCloud, and I just go and listen to us play it. And I think, oh my God, I made a mistake in that bar.
Oh, well, this is what's cool about it. So let me show my favorite part of SoundCloud. But yeah, it is. I heard it actually was. Let me stop sharing for 1 second. I heard it was originally like the techno music community that got it started. So there's a lot of, it's very diverse, but kind of like Bandcamp, if you've ever seen that. But
well, my community is woodwind octets. I don't think that's so techno.
Hold on, actually, give me 1 second to switch my screen here. Yeah, no, not so much. I'm going to pull up SoundCloud over here and show. Hold on, actually, this will make this even more efficient. I pulled up some student examples from years ago. I used this when I was teaching in Turkey, and this was really exciting for my students because they're like, oh, it's cool. It's a cool website. And they're all college students, and they're, about 20 years old, and they're just like, oh, I want to use this cool website. And it's social. It's a social media site where people can share their music. So these are ones that students made public. So I don't feel bad sharing them because anyone can see them right now. But there is an option to make the tracks private. So basically, students just need to set up an account and they can upload a track. And then once they upload it, so let me see if I can hold this up. This is, I guess they had an assignment. I don't even remember exactly what I assigned them, but it looks like they had a maybe April Fool's assignment. So some of them they had to do in pairs. Some of them they had to do alone. Some of them they had to choose at the end of the semester, create a portfolio. And in the portfolio had to be one recording that they redid to improve it based on the feedback. And you can make them re-record all of them if you want, if you're really focused on accuracy or building fluency or complexity, any of those. So so I would put, this is the feature. This is what I'm so excited about with SoundCloud that I have not seen on any other tool. I mean, if you guys know more, please tell me. But basically, it creates a visualization of the sound, and you can go to a very specific part of it and give them feedback. So I was giving feedback like, fun is a noun here. We had a lot of fun. So I'm guessing the student just made a little grammar error with the word fun. So I can laugh, I can make it interactive. So some of the comments were, you know, responding to the content, and some of my comments were responding to their language. So they were opportunities for students to get feedback that was really precise. So you could use, for example, with the color val chart, you might say that word is green, not silver, and give them some feedback on that kind of thing. So how can it be possible? These are some of the things that I did with students. And here's another one, an example.
That's a really neat idea, Megan. I could see taking that on. I mean, so these are little written comments, is that right?
Yeah, so you can just, if you want to put a comment, so here, I think you guys can't hear it right now, the audio,
You
but
can hear it a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is just click on that specific place and make a comment in that place. So we actually did a research study, my colleagues and I, using those the feedback, the corrective feedback. So it was one of those tools that just kind of lets you do something you've never done before. So Karen, sorry, go ahead. Did you want to?
No, I think somebody else had a question.
Okay.
I have a question. This is Liz.
Hi, Liz.
So is this, hey, Megan, is this the student's voice that's been uploaded, that you can see the visualization, the visual representation of their voice?
Yeah, yes, and I can hear it. Let me actually, if I share and I share my computer sound, let me.
So that girl's profile, she just happens to look like a.
And some bones were damaged, but now everything is okay. My mom's situation is okay. After this accident, I understand that loved my mom so much.
So I'm just gonna get just a little tiny clip, but
Well,
you can put
because
global
I was
context.
wondering,
Go ahead.
I have students that are, I have a feeling their line would look like that. It's like they do very little modulation of going up, you know, or going down at the end of a sentence, or going way up when you're really stressing something. And I have always tried to get them to, like, they know what I'm talking about, but I'm like, you know, make your voice go higher and lower. But I was thinking, do you think I could use something like this to actually say, okay, you know, we need to really see some, you know, peaks and valleys here in your recording.
I think this is
Would that work?
amplitude, not pitch, though.
That's a good point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It's just like loudness, basically, is that what you mean by that, Dr. Burr?
Yeah, amplitude is loudness, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because yeah, I'm just looking. So I would do examples for them of whatever I wanted them to do. I would just do a little example and post it. And I think that you can see, like, my, if we're thinking about it as pitch, like, mine is probably even flatter than theirs. For the, I'm thinking about with my Turkish students, what they might be doing, but I'm not sure that would be a super useful tool for that. But if we get to Microsoft PowerPoint, actually, Rebecca's nodding. I was like, what? They've got this crazy artificial intelligence that lets you play with exactly what I think you're talking about,
Yeah.
Liz.
Hey, Megan, can that also be, can you leave audio feedback as well as written?
No, which at the time I was not super interested in doing that. I mean, I had classes with, I had 20 contact hours and my classes were like 50 students in a class. So it was just trying to do this feedback on their audio. Like, I was happy just doing the written comments. It was faster for me, but yeah, I think that's a really good question. Any other comments or questions about SoundCloud? Because
Oh, just that, I mean, back to the issue of amplitude and all that, just when we look at your waveforms right here, Megan, I think, I mean, we could probably glean something from students' syllable timed language might have the amplitude on, you know, you might see, you know, Robin, do you understand what I'm getting at? That we're still going to see a difference. It's not a waveform. I'm sorry, it's not a spectrogram, and it's not showing intonation.
And it's not in, but it's possible. I think you can also expand this. Can't you stretch the SoundCloud so you can see in more detail the small bits of it, or is that all you can see?
Not much. I mean, it's not like editing software where you can stretch it out too much.
Okay, because if you could, then you could see a regular versus an irregular pattern. But I don't know if
here comes Megan to show that you can.
That's about as big as it'll get, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah. No. You need it to be a lot stretched, a lot more stretched to show any kind of irregular rhythm.
All right.
So maybe two more. I love that you guys are thinking about that. It's really fun to nerd out about it a little bit. But two more comments that I would make about this. That you can make the tracks private if students don't want to share them, but it is meant to be a social site. So for example, you can like things just like on Facebook. You can follow people. There are people that follow
Record button. I have an integrated microphone.
Oh no. So I think that one was it. I was playing around with that. But they sorry, I'm trying to see if I can find the ones that are following me. I'm sorry, I don't remember. These are ones that I'm following, but you can see it's very social, and you end up. The other thing I would just comment about it is that you get a link for yourself. So let me see if I can back up. Each track has a link, so I could just copy this and paste it and just share it with someone. So that does make it pretty easy to use in that sense. Okay. Ready for the next tool?
I think everybody's excited to hear about PowerPoint.
Oh man, I'm talking it up too much. Okay, so let me come back to this one. And I'm sorry, I'm not keeping a good eye on the chat if people are saying something. Jennifer, maybe you can give me a heads up, or Karen. Let me just talk a little bit about Screencast-O-Matic, because I think this is a super useful tool for two reasons for teachers. Basically, screencasting. It's a really simple concept if you're not familiar with screencasting. Screencasting is recording, not your face like you're seeing right now, but recording the screen that you have up. So it could actually include a little bubble with your face. I'm sure you guys have seen videos where there's just like a little square in the corner of somebody's face talking, but you're seeing the screen. You're seeing them move around the screen. You see their mouse moving. You see them clicking and opening things. And being able to record that, at first you might say, why do I even care about that? But if you go back to thinking about what I said earlier about the process of technology adoption, this is the kind of thing where the more you think about having that ability, the more you might come up with ideas. So I would say just a couple of ideas why you would want to use it. I had my students do how-to videos. This was really important for my students because we were talking about computer repair, and they were learning to be help desk technicians, basically. So I'd have them show how to do something on the computer. So that was really, really useful, but you can have them do all kinds of things. I actually just took a class recently where the instructor asked us to use Screencast-O-Matic to talk through a PowerPoint. So you can have them show all kinds of things on the screen and talk through them. Rebecca probably knows more about this. I know one of our friends, Sam, Sam Parks does a lot with like having screencasts of students writing assignments and using that for feedback. So she'll pull up their writing assignments on the screen and give feedback on them. But you could have the students do that too. It could be a speaking assignment where they prepared something and they pull it up, and maybe you're really focusing on pronunciation, how do they read it aloud, that kind of thing. So there could be all kinds of fun things you could do with screencasting. And I'll just show a little tiny bit about what Screencast-O-Matic looks like. It is free. All of these tools are free, I should emphasize that, or there's some free version of them that you can use. So Screencast-O-Matic is free up to the first 15 minutes, which honestly, you probably don't want more than 15 minutes of student recordings anyway. It's a lot. I just did some recordings as part of a teacher training at Montgomery College, and I was like just squeaking in there under 15 minutes, and I was like, this is good. It's capping me. It's making sure I'm not overdoing it. So if you go to the website, you just search Screencast-O-Matic. I thought this was useful to show. It's a little confusing because you get here and you're like, what is all this? How much do I have to pay? No, I don't want to do this. You actually just have to go to the Screencast-O-Matic home, ignore all that stuff, make sure it's screencast-o-matic.com/home. There's dashes on each side of the O. And look at this button now, start recording for free. So I'm not sure how this will go with being on Zoom and trying to screen record at the same time. So especially if we're really interested in talking about PowerPoint, I might just skip that and just say, hey, just go try it, because this launch free recorder button, it does download a really light piece of software onto your computer, and you can record either the screen or the webcam if you want, or both. So it gives you like a little picture. You can play with the preferences, but as you can see, it's capped to 15 minutes. And when you're done recording, you can download the file, save it as a file. Screencast-O-Matic has their own sort of cloud hosting where you can create a Screencast-O-Matic link that could be shared, or you can actually upload it directly to YouTube. So that's pretty cool and fun to play with too. So originally, when I was doing screencasting assignments with my students, I said upload it to YouTube because I thought the files would be too big. But then they just took it upon themselves to ignore my instructions, which students are like so good at that. And so they just downloaded it and just sent it to me as an email, which is not what I requested. I asked them to upload it to YouTube and send it to me as an email. And then instead, they just sent it to me as an email attachment, and it worked. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. You know what? That's fine too. Let's just skip a step and we can just do that. So any comments, questions about screencasting?
When my students, we all just had a WhatsApp group, and they would load or email me a video, and then I would download that to my my laptop, and then I would watch it while screencastifying, and I would stop their video and I would talk to, or pause it and talk to them about whatever my feedback was, and then at the end I'd download it and then post that to WhatsApp for them to listen to.
Oh, great. Great. Any other comments? Okay. Okay, so is this correct that we are excited? I talked up Microsoft PowerPoint so much that people are really like, oh my gosh. Okay, so let me skip to that one and then we'll see what we have time for, because I'm not super savvy with these. The rest of these, there are things that I'm excited about that I want to share, and I hope to get you guys excited too, and maybe you can go experiment. So there are two ways to access PowerPoint. I think probably a lot of people know this. So there's the cloud-based version, which they were calling Office 365, and then someone told me the other day it's not Office 365 anymore. Now it's just Office or something like that. So they keep changing the names, and they're experimenting just like we are. So, but there's the cloud-based version, and then there's the offline version. So the tools that appear immediately, there's probably some way to access more tools on the online version, but there are actually slightly different tools that I'll show in just a second here. So if we start with the offline version, let me see if I can share.
And this is not free, right, Megan?
This is not free. This is true. You're right. I get it for free through my job because my college pays for Office 365, and we get to download them for free. But otherwise, you either you have to have a hookup or you have to pay for it. So thank you, Liz, for pointing that out. So now
if you already have PowerPoint, this is included?
This is included. It should be. You may need to update it.
Some features, not
Probably,
all
yeah.
features.
Yeah, I would say, make sure your application is up to date, or make sure your Windows is up to date. Sometimes those application updates come through your Windows update, from what I understand. Do you use Windows, Dr. Barr? Okay. Okay, so this is the thing that I think is really, really interesting that appears in the online version. I don't forget what I said earlier, but let's just start here because this is what we're looking at. But this is a button that says rehearse with coach. So where I am here, I have my PowerPoint open. I'm on the slideshow tab here. And there's some other interesting things that you can see. There's actually a way to present live where you, again, I don't know how this is going to interact with Zoom, but I can try it. But it's creating a code that anyone can just access. You can type, I played with this earlier, I typed it out on my phone to just go to that live presentation. And there's some advantages to that, one of which I think is that you, let's see if I can get out of that now. I think it's going to be running that for a minute, but I can end the session. You can actually put live subtitles on there in multiple languages.
Can I just say that I'm there now? I just scanned it. It worked.
Oh, I pulled it down. Should I put it back up? You can play with it if you want.
Well, it was neat. It gives me a chance it gives me a poll. I can evaluate. It's like an evaluation.
Oh, it's the end. It's probably because I ended it. So if you want to play with it, I think it will end up just showing.
So I mean, just to kind of point out to everybody, all I did was turn on my phone and go to my camera, and I was able to, it knows that it's looking at a QR scan, and then it goes to, it gives you a little link. So then I opened it and it was the end of presentation survey. That's pretty neat stuff.
It's a little bit like Padlet that somebody mentioned before, except it's not quite as interactive because students don't have their own place that they can do something. But they can still draw on the slides and move things around. And the subtitle things are super cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have to say, I'm not super savvy with this. I'm sort of wading through it a little bit, but you feel free to go wade through it yourselves, because a lot of this is kind of new and interesting. Let me see if I can end my show and get out of this, because the thing that I think is actually more apropos to ESL students, particularly, is this rehearse with coach feature. Have you played with this before?
No,
this is phenomenal.
Tell us about it.
I'm going to do a tiny little sample. Let's see. It says mic is ready. Let's see if I can do this. I did it before, but not through Zoom. So it's like adding a layer of complexity right now that's throwing me off. Rebecca, I bet you know how to do this. No? Okay, hold on.
Actually, Megan, don't worry about Zoom. I found that a lot of tools, just ignore it and go about your business, and we'll see.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, so yes, I had to minimize all my Zoom stuff. But basically here, so what this is talking about is in the bottom right corner, welcome to PowerPoint Presenter Coach. As you rehearse, we'll give you feedback about how you're presenting. At the end, you'll see a numerical summary and our suggestions. So I'm just going to do a tiny sample of what this could look like so you can see what the feedback looks like. So basically, I'm going to be presenting my presentation, and I'm going to be talking about screencasting and PowerPoint and tools for online speaking. And these are all really useful things that you may want to use with your students. So let me pause that and see if I can, hold on now. Asking me to resume it. Hold on now. Oh, so but notice how it's saying things like you're using too many fillers. Like basically.
It's like your own Toastmaster International getting in the way.
Oh, somebody's liking it. Oh, that's wild. I have two things going on right now. So let me see if I can. Here we go. This is what I wanted to get to. So I'm going to end this session. Perfect. This is kind of the mind-blowing part of this. They are talking about a lot of different things, right? So they're actually saying, how much are you?
Wait. Who is the they? Who is this?
Yes.
The AI or what?
This is the AI. This is their artificial intelligence.
And
So,
it's giving you likes and little hearts.
oh no, who gave me likes? Somebody else must have been doing it.
That's me. That's me.
Okay, that's now. Was that now? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the likes now. So yes, I was doing two things at once, so I should have just done one at a time, but I'm like, wow, these things are amazing. I'm just kind of playing around. So the live presentation is one thing, but the artificial intelligence is the other thing. And the rehearse with coach is the artificial intelligence that listened to me and is now giving me feedback. So Liz, your question about pitch, that actually comes in here. They'll show a little, I didn't talk for very long, but it'll show a little line that will talk about pitch variation and how, that's more interesting for your audience. It'll talk about the pace, how quickly you're talking. Over time, it'll give you little graphs. You can learn more about it. It talks about, are you reading your slides, which is something we don't want to do. If our students are just reading their slides, maybe we care about that, maybe we don't. There's also checking for sensitive phrases, and I think that's probably something like if you're using terms that might be offensive to somebody, that they'll ding you on that. So they talk about my fillers, right? How many fillers did I use? Things that I should be avoiding. So this could be really, really interesting for students to just play with on their own. If you're having them work towards a more professional, polished presentation, it could also be especially useful for that. So this is what I think is really mind-blowing, right?
May I say, am I the only person who thinks that is really, really cool and also not just a little bit creepy?
Yeah, it is a little creepy.
So Megan, is this something that they do as an individual? So the student would have to have PowerPoint also? And if they do it, do they email you the results, or is there any kind of interactive thing going on?
So I want to, I'm just going to pause that for a second and just say, I have never used this with students. I discovered it the other day. Doug, your question is really good. I think as we're all, treading more and more into this remote world, bringing more technology in, a lot of stuff is going to be popping up. So Microsoft, I think, is doing a good job stepping up, giving us more new interesting technology to play with. And I have never played with this with students. But I would think that maybe you could, for example, have them take a screenshot of their results, have them do it in pairs, see that at the end. I don't know.
They could screencastify themselves while using it.
So many layers. That's true.
Well, my students probably couldn't afford it, but
yeah.
But that's a whole different issue. And then trying to explain to them how to use it when they're just beginner English speakers is pretty difficult too.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use this with beginners.
Rebecca has a thought.
There is a free version of Microsoft that has some of these features, but not all of them. And it's completely online, so they might be able to access some of it. Also, one of the nice things about Microsoft is that there are a lot of really good training videos in lots of languages. So students can watch the how-to if they're beginners in their native language, assuming that their native language is one of the 60 most widely spoken languages in the world. And then they have the technical knowledge in their first language, and then they can start applying it in English. So that's one of the benefits of a company of that size, is that they have good training.
And, some tools are just going to be more applicable to higher ed or, students who probably have it and, have a professional lives. They're preparing for presentations, and others not so much. So.
Yeah, I was thinking that this is like really good for presentations. What I was teaching at Montgomery College before, like interaction. If it marked my students down for fillers or something, I was actually teaching them how to use fillers because there were lots of group interaction. It was a totally different environment. So it's very specific. Yeah.
Does everybody know what fillers are? Is there anybody out there who does not know what a filler is?
You're talking like is that what you mean?
Yeah. So fillers are those things that we use, that we say, so we don't give up our turn of speaking. And every language has its appropriate things to fill up that space while you're thinking of what you want to say.
And also like phrases and expressions, like going back to what you said, because the complication gets very tricky, and you know, you have
But if you get a report on how they're doing and you want them to be doing it, even though technically it's a negative thing in that context, you could be like, no, this is great.
Yeah.
Good job using the fillers.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what we were.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Exactly.
You'd have to be flexible as you went along and say, actually, this is marked as bad, but I really like what you're doing here.
I'd like to
I was
just
thinking about that
speak
in
to,
terms of, I'm sorry.
Shirley, go ahead.
I was thinking about that in terms of pace, like they were saying it was a great pace. And oftentimes I would tell my students, slow down, slow down, slow down, because non-native speakers oftentimes, when they speak really quickly, they're hard to understand. So yeah, you really have to adjust it for the audience, for the student.
That's a good point. Like the whole, what the screen tells them from that machine learning might need to be modified by the teacher, sort of interpreted, right? Because the standards for, you know, whatever their standard is based on some kind of a native speaker model of a certain rate.
Oh, I wonder if we can get Microsoft to change have their standards be adjustable.
They need a little blue canoe in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Look
So,
it up with the color val chart, and they could, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I can't reveal what we have yet. Some of you have already seen little betas of it, but we have a little something coming up that for the tech world that's coming up pretty soon. So that's just a little teaser. But I love Doug's question, and I have a feeling, here's my thought, as Doug asked, well, what about my students? And, you know, we've spent several weeks now, many weeks, where we explore tools to stretch our own capacity, our own comfort with technology. But the question comes up time and again, well, what will this be something my students can use? And whose students are we talking about? And so wouldn't it be neat if we did a session, and I'm doing this as sort of a call for potential presenters on this, but we need to know how to assess our students' tech, like their access to tech, and then make the right choices that match their tech and our capacity and our tech, right?
We just sent out a survey about that. In fact, I can give you a COAB survey on literacy. So that's the Washington Literacy Center, and a whole bunch of other, I guess, adult education schools in the U.S. sent out a survey assessing, in the time of COVID, what kind of technology people had. So that's the kind of thing you could build off of if you want.
That'd be great. I mean, how many would be interested in something like that? Wouldn't that be neat? I mean, I just think there are all kinds of surprises out there, because you can say, folks, oh, they don't have computers, but all of a sudden we have all these Chromebooks out there in the world because of the public schools distributing them. And
yeah, for my students, it's more the bandwidth, the internet access. Their bandwidth is not high enough to do face-to-face.
Right.
Can I just say that Karen and I have been talking about Fridays at 5 and trying to maybe schedule things a little more. And so we were thinking that on the first Friday of each month, we'll try to focus on tools or activities that will help with low-level, K through 12, and perhaps low literacy students. And then the third Friday of each month, which happens to be this one, we'll focus more on sort of higher ed, more advanced students. Would people be interested in us trying to target what we talk about a little more? Yes, no, thumbs?
Yeah, sort of group specific, or maybe still leave several general ones as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, at least we'll try and note that in the schedule where what we're.
Wonderful. Well, I would like to take a moment to go back to Megan here. Let's all thank Megan. I mean, just what a fun, wow, lots of great ideas in this session.
Yay.
Yeah, we love.
Oh, there's more. Can I just say, like, I know we don't have time to talk about the rest, but like, if you've never played with Padlet, just go to padlet.com, go play with it. If you've never played with Schoology, there's some funky stuff going on with it right at this moment because they're like overloaded. I don't think they're even accepting new accounts, but if you use it, they have a new feature where you can do audio and video assessments in there.
What's the word?
Put
What did you
rubrics
call
on them.
that?
Schoology. Let me
Like
just can I just share my screen one more time with the.
Can we get Megan's PowerPoint somehow?
Oh,
Why?
sure.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I can actually share it in the chat with you right now if you want.
It's a great idea. And then for our recording, because a lot of folks will be watching the recorded version, Jennifer, do we have a plan for that? To be able to provide it on, do we have some kind of a drive?
We can put it up on our public folder, in our Google Drive, or we'll let you know. So keep a lookout on our two, if you're in my Color Val community in that group, or even on the page.
I'm going to call it like that. That's a benefit of being in my Color Val community. So everyone, I want to thank you. I'm going to finish by sharing a screen as I do my outro here, because I just came across this other really cool tool. So I'll just start talking and you can see what that looks like when I'm actually speaking. This is called Spectrogram. It's just a fun tool, but it's kind of cool, huh, Robin? Watch Robin's face. I think she's having some kind of a positive watch my voice fit. So anyway, as we head on out, I'll just mention, when we mention my Color Val community, that is a private Facebook community for Color Val teachers who basically that defines itself as having invested in us somehow. Owning the book is that investment. So if you go to colorval.com, that's your way into our world. I think we're a pretty terrific world of very supportive teachers. I was just thinking the other day about how we moderate that group, and it takes no effort to moderate it because it's 100% positive. It's 100% productive, I think. It's not like some groups I've ever been in where, you have naysayers. Like, we're really there for each other, and we've built that community mindfully. So I hope if you're not part of my Color Val community, you'll consider coming on in. Go to colorval.com, visit our shop, buy any of our products with our book, The Color Val Approach. That ensures that we all are, literally on some same page, and we could actually refer to a page in that book and talk about what we do in teaching English with the Color Val Approach. Next week, we have Dr. Robin Barr in the room. Raise your hand up there. Dr. Barr's
I'm still transfixed by this spectrogram here. I can't believe it.
Oh, Karen, stop it.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
It makes me dizzy.
Well, you can close your eyes. So anyway, that was super fun. Next up, so fourth Fridays is Dr. Robin Barr. It's Ask the Linguist. And
I don't know what I'm going to be talking about because you have to decide.
I will decide. So
no, I meant you all.
Kind of click and clack, but we will be collecting your questions, and then I will feed them to the Robin, and Robin will perform tricks for us. No, it's much more interactive than that. But Robin brings an incredible wealth of knowledge to the group, and we want to take advantage of, just all of that by saying you can ask any question about language, and Robin will be able to address it.
Or I'll make something up if I don't know the answer.
That's not true. So
no, it is.
Hey, can I just mention to everybody, if you want, you can save. Does everybody know how to save the chat? So if there were links that you wanted to take from Megan's wonderful presentation, you just click on the chat, and then where you would type over, there's a little kebab box with 3 dots. If you click on that, it says Save Chat, and that will download the chat for you.
Your Zoom folder.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful, everyone. Good. We look forward to seeing you next week. Before we go, let me add my Chrome, what is that? Music Lab Chrome experiments down there, so you can find that fun stuff.
Yeah.
There we go for everyone. I hope.
Hey, you know what I found out yesterday? That when you are presenting with Google Slides, it has closed captioning. And it's pretty darn good too. So if you have, you know, students who are having trouble listening, or you want that feature for some reason, it doesn't do punctuation and capitalization, but it picks up the words pretty accurately.
Wow.
Wonderful. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you in the coming week. Take care.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Peace
Bye.
out. And thanks again, Megan.
Megan, you're awesome.